Good afternoon. I have a great topic for you guys today, and it's something that's kind of funny that maybe you haven't heard before, so tune in till the end. It's how and why you want to be a macro manager. You don't want to be a micromanager for your kids as a parent, you want to be a macro manager. So today, welcome to my jungle. I'm Trish Thompson, and we here are parenting kids with learning differences. And let me tell you, it's wild. It's pretty wild. It's like a roller coaster, especially during a global pandemic that's coming up on a year of our kids being out of school. So today we're going to talk about shifting from our job being more like a micromanager, nitpicking, exhausted, frustrated, have to have our hands in every detail, to being a macro manager. And a macro manager, the main difference between these two, and the really important distinction, is that micromanagers attempt to control people, macro managers try to control processes and systems. And this is the huge shift and the really big difference. Okay, so a micromanager as a parent would be someone that has so many different rules and controls and things that they want their child to do that not only do they set the limit and the expectation, but then they're in there and they're nagging and they're lecturing and they're double checking and they're triple checking and, oh, you did it that way, but really the right way is this way. And they're very caught up in controlling what their child is doing and how they do it, and does it look right, and is it the right way to do it, and is it how other people are doing it? And do you just hear all the angst that's in there? Yeah, I know this because it's very tempting to slip into this role. You feel like if you're not micromanaging, then your child's world is going to fall apart. But the angst comes from the fact that we've been sold a bill of goods, y'all. You don't get to control the thoughts, feelings, and actions of other people, even if those other people happen to be your kids. We're accomplished, we're successful, we're educated, whatever accolades you want to throw at me. So we're used to having a process where if we're in control of everything, it goes pretty well. Parenting's not like that. It's a human being in relationship with another human being. It's a little bit more messy than that. So we want to switch to being a macro manager. Macro managers, they manage and control the processes, the systems, the habits. Actually, these are things we can control as parents. We can influence and set up the routines in our house, the expectations in our house, the systems for success in our house, the accountability structures. We can set those things up, and imagine just setting up big fences and then allowing your child to kind of bump against those and find their way and figure it out. You're not in there with your hands in every little thing that's happening. You're allowing them some space within the boundaries and systems that you've set up to find their way. Gosh, that makes me feel better just saying it. Just that visual of like, I'm going to set up these boundaries and fences, and I'm going to let my child ding around in there a little bit. Right? That's a little bit more relaxing to me, because guess what I can do? I don't get to control my child, and I don't need to be involved in every little nuance of how they do everything. But if the boundaries I set up and the systems I set up aren't very effective, I can always moderate those. I can make the fence smaller. I can shift a gate around. I don't have to be rigid and inflexible. And micromanagers are rigid and inflexible. I don't know about you, but any of you out there parenting kids with learning differences or parenting kids in general might have found what I found, which is rigid inflexibility doesn't work that well. It creates tension, power and control battles, exhaustion, frustration, anger. Flexibility, though, as a macro manager, you can be flexible. So you can set up some boundaries and systems and make adjustments along the way, still allowing your child some freedom and control. A great example would be in my house, school is not optional, neither is the daily schoolwork, but how and where you do it is. So if you want to build a fort and do your schoolwork in there for the day, great. If you want to use markers or a whiteboard, to write out your stuff because it just feels better and more fun, cool. If you want to rearrange the order in which you do the stuff because you're just not in the mood to do writing, but you're in the mood to do PE, cool, right? So I set up a system and a boundary that's quite large, which is schoolwork gets done before we move on to the fun stuff of the day, before video games, before outside playtime, that kind of thing. But how, where, when you do it can be quite flexible and give the child a lot of power in that day. And guess what? Sometimes they choose poorly. And that's a learning experience. So that's another difference. Micromanagers want perfection and they want things to go a certain way. They have a fixed mindset about the right way to do something. And it's their way. But someone that's a macromanager values growth over perfection. And so that's really a growth mindset. You value the process, you value the mistakes, you value the wins, you value the curiosity and the creativity and the things that are learned within those fences as kids bump around and experiment and try things out, right? Another really big one is that micromanagers often are disappointed, frustrated, and exhausted because that type of parenting is inefficient and ineffective. And even if it is effective, there's usually a lot of blowback. So there's a lot of energy expended on the part of the parent, not on the child as much. And there typically is a lot of struggle and control for power. When you're a macromanager, you set realistic expectations. And so when you set realistic, achievable expectations in your household, which is get in there, get messy, stay within my boundaries, but get to work. That's achievable. So everyone is in a yes mindset and the dopamine is firing off and people are feeling encouraged and positive and energized. The opposite is true when you're a micromanager. People feel defeated, depleted, shamed, and disappointed, and your dopamine levels plummet. So your relationships suffer and your experience of being in the family together suffers. And I've parented both ways. Believe me, when your child is struggling and you feel like if you don't get in there and take over, failure's going to happen, it's really tempting. But I would encourage you to kind of take a look, like give yourself a little inventory of, are you micromanaging or are you being a macromanager? And I think it's time for an upgrade. So tell me, comment and let me know, in what ways are you a micromanager? If you shift to macromanaging, how does that feel? What feels hard about that? Because making changes like that can often feel really uncomfortable at first. So start conversations in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel because as parents of kids with learning differences, you might feel like you're alone. Believe me, I spent years feeling like I was the only person messing it up. But you're not alone. You're truly not alone. And if someone that is a professional like me, who worked with so many kids in the school, found parenting so challenging, I know that there are other people out there just like me, just like us, and I want this community to grow. So share the channel, subscribe, and definitely like and comment. I'll see you next Tuesday. That's when I drop my videos, unless I have some major parenting issue that comes up during the day that makes me too tired, depleted, or exhausted to do so. It happens. I'll see you next week. Bye.